Good morning, world. Well, morning in Tucson, and morning where Zoe is my guest today because we're in the same general area. And Zoe, I saw your coffee cup, right? We're still our morning coffee. So my name is Donna Reed, and I am in our Cactus Lounge, and I'm an alumni of Up With People 1976A. For those of you that want to know more, there's a little video on the Cactus Lounge YouTube page that I created to talk about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And this morning, my guest is Zoe Carroll. And I'm super excited, you guys, because Zoe is the first person that I'm interviewing who I kind of don't know much about. So met him once, and he may or may not even remember that because he was performing and there was all sorts of people he was dancing with. So welcome, Zoe.
Welcome.
Thank
Good
you
to see you,
for joining
Donna.
me. So I just asked you, and now I'm going to ask the world because, and have you tell the world about your name because Zoe is an unusual name. So tell me, is that your real name?
Well, real name is Alonzo Carroll, but I started going by Zoe, my God, probably after high school. No, even in Up With People, it was Zoe. So
Was
it's
it?
been a long time. I've been Zoe longer than I've been Alonzo. Put it that way.
So I understand that. All right. Way less to write, right?
That's right.
That's great. And so when did you travel in Up With People?
And 71A.
71A. So where were you living and how did you learn about Up With People?
I was in Yuma, Arizona. And like a lot of cities, Up With People came to perform. And then they let us know that you could join Up With People. And so, the interview process, but that's where I first heard of Up With People was when they came to Yuma. Never heard of Up With People before then.
Yeah, and did they perform at like your high school or did you?
They performed at my high school. Then afterwards they had interviews. And then basically based off the interview, you were invited to join the cast. And then once you were in the cast, you determine whether you wanted to try out as a soloist, as a dancer, stage crew, lighting. So it was first an interview process.
Okay. And you had a little bit of a choice then. You were able to say, I think I'm a good dancer. I'd like to interview as
Yes. Yes.
Okay. That changed a little bit by the time I traveled in 7.
Yes, very much so.
So interesting. And so when you traveled, do you remember what tuition was?
Oh my gosh. It was, I want to say it was like $620.
For a year.
For a year.
A year. Oh, these young kids aren't going to want to hear that.
And Donna, and the interesting thing about that is I came from a pretty poor family. And so even $620 back then was a lot of money. I come from a family of 7 kids. I'm a single mom. And so, it was rough for her to raise that money, but she did. And so to this day, I thank her for that.
That's awesome. So I forgot to tell you all that the one connection that Zoe and I have is his sister Rosie, I know from working at some jazz events.
My big sister.
Big sister. Yep. She tells me about how she was in charge of all you guys.
If it wasn't for her, I don't know what would have happened with us.
She has told me some stories. So that's really awesome. That's really great. So so you raised the money, and I'm assuming then that you came to Tucson to stage. Were they staging in Tucson?
No, actually back then there were 2 casts.
Okay.
Cast A and Cast B. Cast A, my cast, we met in Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Oh, that's right.
So that's where we cast our show. So we were up there for, I want to say 3 months, 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
And then the other cast started out on the East Coast.
Okay. Okay. So did you know the SOSs up in, because they used to help a lot up in Jackson Hole, Hugh and Doug?
It's possible, it's been a long time.
Wasn't just last week. Yeah.
So trying to remember all the names, you know how it is. You meet a ton of people, go to a ton of places, sometimes for an overnight stay. And, it's hard to remember every city you were in at times.
Let alone the people. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's true. Exactly. That's true. So, so you staged in Jackson, and tell me what your costumes were like at that time.
Hot. Corduroy vests and pants, kind of like bell bottoms, because that was the 70s. Multicolored shirts. I remember they were made of rayon. As a matter of fact, I was going to grab I still have my shirt.
Oh,
That's the one thing I kept, but I packed it away. I was going to grab it. It was multicolored, red, oranges. This was the 70s. I remember it was made out of rayon, so it was extremely hot. The corduroy was extremely hot, and under the lights, it was hotter. So it was
hot.
Yeah, it was extremely hot. And the women wore bell bottoms, some kind of half shirt. So it was the 70s.
And it was the early 70s.
Or very early 70s.
That was an evolution as time went by. So
yes.
When we traveled in 76, we had double knit. So same thing, polyester was hot. And then we had jeans that we wore for and gauchos for our assemblies. Were you allowed to wear jeans?
No.
No, that's what I thought. Okay.
No, we just had the one outfit. I think maybe we had a couple of different shirts, but I don't think so. Seems like I had the one shirt. So no
washwear.
Exactly.
Too funny. So tell me, and I know it's going back a long time and you've done a lot of music from them, but is there a song that just comes into your mind now and then that you remember from when you traveled that may or may not be like still resonate with you today based on what's happening in our world?
Yeah, there's really a couple. I think for just about anyone who's been in Up With People, Roads is probably the song everyone remembers. And then we did a song called With Everything Changing. Because when I was in Up With People in the 71, it was kind of a pivotal time in Up With People. The Vietnam War was still going on. It was kind of winding down, but it was still going on. And so it was kind of strange because we were in some communities seen as goody two-shoe kids because we're singing of peace and love and come together against the backdrop of the Vietnam War. Wow. So it was a very strange time in Up With People, transitioning from the 60s to the realities of the 70s. So With Everything Changing was really a song about, and I don't know if they still do that song in Up With People today. I don't think so.
They don't, but I'm humming it in my head. So
everything changing. So, that song comes to mind very much so because that was a great time of change in the nation and in Up With People. And Roads, of course, is a seminal song that if you're in Up With People, it's stuck on rewind, right?
It is.
It's in your heart.
It's been used all through the years. It's been changed. The ending, the way it's done, depending on the countries we've been in. It's a wonderful, wonderful song. So
yes, it is.
Yeah. I hope that when these get posted, that it makes, some of the younger casts and people go back and look up With Everything Changing on YouTube and stuff, because so many of these songs are out there and the words really do still resonate. So this isn't on my list, but I'm going to ask you this. Based on the time that you traveled and as an African-American, did you run across anything that you felt like in a host family or that was good, bad, hard, different for you, Zoe?
The only time that I can remember, and it was just, I became aware, well, in Yuma, let me put it this way. In Yuma, we kind of had two sides of town. There was kind of the middle class, upper middle class side of town. I think there was one Black family on that side of town.
Okay.
Maybe a couple of Hispanic families. On my side of town was everything else. So I came from a very integrated community. My best friends were Mexican, white. We were just a blended community.
Right.
And I remember going to Denver. A lot of times, as you well know, especially back when I was in the cast, there were troubled communities and Up With People would go in and try and bring the community together. And I remember going to Denver and we were sent into a high school because it was very segregated. It was the first time I went through a metal detector in a high school. It was a very racially charged environment. And so that was the first time I think I'd experienced the tension between the races. Okay. Because growing up, I really didn't experience that, not in my hometown. So I think that sticks with me to this day.
Interesting. and fortunate for you, right? For
Yes,
to have
yes.
grown up in that place. That's really neat. So, have you, are there cast members that you've kept in touch with? Clearly you're in touch with Tony Terry.
Yeah, there's a few, Tony Davidson, Jerry Walker, but he passed a little bit ago. Milton Spalding. Well, when I went in touch with people, it was interesting. There were 7 kids from my high school that went in touch with people that year.
Wow.
Which was really unusual for a very small town. So there's a few, Bonnie Knight, there's a few of us that still keep in touch. And we'll continue to. And then there's some that you may not talk to for years. Maybe you see at a reunion and you're right back into 1976 or me in 1971. So we're just lifelong friends.
I agree. And I think that sometimes the ones that you haven't seen, when all of a sudden you see them again after 30 or 40 or 50 years, that in your head you're 18 or 20.
Right. Forever.
Yeah. So I forgot to ask this at the beginning. What do you do for a living? And is there anything that Up With People brought forth in you that has allowed you to pursue what you love?
Oh yeah. I'm a health coach. I'm a certified health coach. I'm fitness trainer. I've done a few things over the years, sales. I love sales, but really my heart has always been in serving people. So I love being a health coach. And there's a lot I got from Up With People. Growing up poor, sometimes you don't grow up with a whole ton of confidence. Now, I don't get me wrong. We were poor, but we were never dirty, trashy, and that kind of stuff. We were just poor, but a lot of our friends were poor too. But one thing I was popular in high school. A lot of Up With People kids are, popular in high school. But I remember I didn't have a ton of confidence. As a matter of fact, I was talked into interviewing for Up With People. There were some, because I talked to some friends, I said, God, that'd be really cool to be Up With People. And they're like, you should go interview. And it's like, oh, no, they're not going to take me. I'm not a singer, because back in high school, I had terrible stage fright. I didn't sing. As a matter of fact, I joined men's chorus because this where all the bad boys went in, and I knew we would never do a performance. So I said, I'll go in there and I'll just be in the back row somewhere and just hide. And so, and every time I tried to sing at home, one of my sisters would say, shut up, you can't sing. So
you showed them.
Yeah. So some friends talked me into interviewing. And so I was really amazed. I got accepted into Up With People. And then once I got in the cast, friends talked me into trying out as a soloist, because I was like, oh, I can't be a soloist. And they said, well, just go try. I remember singing Raindrops Are Falling on My Head.
That was your audition song?
That was my song.
That's great.
So, I guess the big takeaway is that we never get to where we are by ourselves, and then Up With People gave me confidence. It gave me confidence that I could do things that I never thought I could do. I never thought I would be a soloist singing in front of 100,000 people. I never knew I would visit the places, because Up With People was the first time I had ever seen snow. It's the first time I'd been on a plane. It was the first time I had ever really seen any place. So really gave me confidence. So that confidence that, hey, I can go in and do this. That's why I became a singer down the road. That's why I became a performer like I am today. It's because that confidence that I got in Up With People and the encouragement along the way from friends that I could actually do that.
I know that you had said you'd listened to the interview with Mona, and Mona, coming from Mexico and living in the States, she kind of said the same thing. She said every time she's asked to do something, she goes, I can probably do it.
Yeah.
Up With People is just sort of like, well, of course you can. Here, go.
That's right.
Right.
Exactly right.
That's awesome. Okay, so you mentioned the health coaching, but I met you when you were like dancing with every girl in the audience because they were signing up to dance with you. So tell us about your band.
Okay, so I have a band. I'm rebranding it. It's called the Zoe Carroll Project. Right now, it's Zoe and the Soul Breakers. So look for, I'll let people know when I've got a new website, but right now, Zoe Carroll and the Soul Breakers, we have a website. So when I got out of Up With People, and I was a student at the U of A, so I ended up in Tucson because a lot of Up With People kids migrated to Tucson. The headquarters were in Tucson.
Mhm.
And so I was going to NAU. That's where I planned on going to school, but I got a scholarship to U of A. So I ended up in Tucson. And so that's where I met a lot of Up With People kids. So I had some friends who had a band, and they said, hey, can you come and sing with us? We heard you were in Up With People. So I started singing in their band, and then things just progressed over the years, and went from this band to this band to this band. And I think Up With People gave me but it's interesting, Donna. In Up With People, everything is so professionally run. You as a soloist, you're told, hey, if you don't learn your part, well, there's this person over here that's going to sing it. As a dancer, if you don't, Lynn Caldwell, Lynn, so if you didn't know your part, I'm not Lynn Caldwell.
No, you mixed them up.
Yes, Lynn
Morris,
there you go. So, Lynn, if you didn't know your part, then someone else did it. So when I got out of Up With People, I thought that's how bands operated. I thought you showed up, you knew your material is professionally run, and boy, was I in for a shock, a big shock. And even to this day, I harken back to those days, because anything that I do, I try to be very professional about it. Because I think of that training that I received in Up With People. And I'm so grateful that I started out with that experience, because I base what I do musically off of that.
Yeah.
The type of people I want to work with, I base it off of that experience. So, there's so many different ways that Up With People touches you, that sometimes you don't even realize all the different ways.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So I just started, and I didn't think I could write music, and I had a guitar player that said, hey, well, can you write some lyrics to a song? So I wrote the lyrics. I said, it's not that hard to do. So then I started writing my own music. And so again, it just goes back to that confidence that I got in Up With People, and it's carried forth to this day.
That's wonderful. All right. So we're going to do the speed round, which hasn't really been a speed round, because
it's hard.
Okay. So, yep. Okay. So is there a favorite food that you tried when you traveled, or something that you tasted that you never ate again?
The thing I remember most was in Italy, because that's where we did our overseas tour. And it was having breakfast, and it was just Italian jam. I think they call it marmalade. I can't remember what they called it. And then there was some type of little biscuit and butter. I just remember that was just a really nice meal.
That's good. Yeah. All right. What about a host family? I know it's been a long time, but do you remember a host family that you loved?
Yeah, there's a couple of them. There was one in Washington. I think it was Bellingham, Washington. I remember, because when I got there, their son had been lost in the forest. It was a big national story.
Wow.
There was a whole national search for their son.
That just gave me chills.
Ooh. Yeah, they found him. He was okay. But I stayed with them. So it's just really interesting to hear the story. And then I remember in Denver, I stayed with a family a couple of times, because we traveled to Denver 2 or 3 times. And they were poorer than I was growing up. I mean, really poor. But bless their hearts, they opened up I knew they couldn't afford to host anyone. I think there were 2 or 3 of us there. It was really so bad that we really kind of slept on the dresser and stuff, because there were roaches. And but they were dirt poor, but they were the nicest family. And and to this day, I still think about them, because they opened up their doors and their wallets and hearts when I knew they couldn't afford to. And being
Wow.
poor growing up, I understood that.
That's awesome. All right. Favorite city. Did you have a favorite place you visited?
Oh, any city in Italy.
Any city in Italy. You love
I think, but
Italy.
probably the favorite is Garmisch, which is in Germany.
Germany, Garmisch-Partenkirchen. And
Yes,
that's
because back Up With People, Sears had selected Up With People to do a commercial. Sears came out with a new line of bicycles called Free Spirit bikes. And so they picked our cast to do the commercial. So we worked with the guy who wrote the Coke commercial. We worked with some heavy hitters. They wrote the song, we recorded the song, and then we flew to Germany and we filmed for, I think it was a week or two. And I just remember because it was such a nice break. They were building the Olympic Village. This was in '72. So we were filming around Munich and the Olympic Village. And it was just such a nice break from performing. We could relax and just shoot a commercial. It was like a vacation because in Up With People, you work hard.
yeah.
So I remember that was probably my favorite city because of that experience.
That's awesome. So the experience, it makes the place, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. And the last question, place you'd most like to return to. Is there any place you've always wanted to go back and you haven't? Italy. Okay. Got to get
hands down.
We have some great alumni in Italy, Zoe.
Hands down.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for your time this morning. And as always, it went longer than I wanted it to go, but it doesn't matter. People have the choice, right? They can listen.
That's right.
And those people who listen are going to get these great stories at the end.
There you go. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, Donna.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you again.
Oh, you will.
I know. All right. Thank you, Zoe.
All right, Donna. Ciao.
Ciao.